All right, folks. Well, let's get this party started, shall we? Because it's 10 minutes late. But what are you gonna do? I had some disruption, but you know, I made it. I made it. You would think that I would be better at this, but apparently I am not. Well, thanks for taking the time to join me. I appreciate it. We got a lot to cover today, so we're gonna probably go a little long, but you know, just gonna let you know that that's what's gonna happen. But if you have any questions or anything that you want to cover while we're here, make sure you go in the comments below and, you know, let me know what's going on, what's happening, how is it happening, is it happening, do you need help? Do you need help with something? Let's talk through it, okay? So, hey everyone, thanks for being here. I'm Kurt and I run Schmidt Consulting Group and KRT Digital. So what I do is I help business owners and their teams get AI working in a way that sticks. So it earns its place in how you run the business. So for the next hour, the plan is simple. We're going to go from typing in a chatbot to having an AI that actually knows your business and works right next to you. So I'm going to keep the teaching short, but feel free to reach out if you want some one-on-one time. You know, if you know me, I'm more than happy to do that. And I want to leave some room for questions because that's the part that I like best about doing these things. So, but before we start, if you can, drop a comment in where you're joining from and what you do. I'll be watching the comments the whole time, so if something lands or something's confusing, just say so because I talk fast. So this works better as a conversation than a lecture. I would much rather have that, okay? All right, well, let's jump into our presentation and talk through what we were talking through today. So let's start at the beginning. Why does your AI keep forgetting you? The one question I'd like to start with before any of the tool talk is this, okay? So the idea here is that you've probably had this conversation. Maybe this week you sit down with the AI, you explain something that's going on in your business, what you're trying to do, who the customers are, how you like things to get done. And it gives you something good. You close the laptop, great. The next morning you open it back up and you have no idea who you are again. You have to explain it all over again. And maybe some of you are using projects. That's helpful, but it's not as powerful. So, but that's the wall that most people hit. It's easy to decide that the AI just isn't that smart or the whole thing is overhyped. But the AI is plenty capable. It just forgets the second you walk away, and every new conversation usually starts from zero because you're using the chatbot. So I'll be honest with you, I did this the slow way for a long time. I'd paste the same background information into new chats. I had text boxes sitting there open with context that I would take from chats. I had Apple Notes all stacked up, and I'd take those and post those in there. And it took me longer to admit that I was just solving the wrong problem. And the fix is to give AI a memory it keeps, and that's what today is about. So let's get into it. A lot of people ask me what they should use. ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. It's a very fair question. It's just the second one I would usually be asking. The first question is, how is your stuff organized? Where do your files live? Your emails, your notes, your documents, the designs, the spreadsheets. The AI can only help with what it can find. If it can't see it, it can't use it. So if you work across multiple computers like I do, and you keep your files maybe in one place that syncs everywhere, something like a Dropbox or a Google Drive, the one source of truth that follows you around. And I'd hope that you try to get that sorted before you do anything else, because it makes every step after that a lot simpler. So if you're working, if you've got some RFPs on your desktop, and you've got some files in Google Drive and some in your email or whatever, it can be a mess. So go ahead and drop a comment in if you're somebody that's got your stuff all over the place. If you want to reach out and talk through ways to satisfy that data, I'd be more than happy to talk through that, because that is usually the biggest problem that people have when their AI is dumb. So once you're past using AI to bang out an email here and there are three things that separate the people who get a little out and the people who get a lot out. The first is memory. The AI remembers you from one day to the next. The second is context. It knows your work, it knows your customers, it knows your voice, and the things that you actually care about. And the third is portability. All of that lives in files you own instead of being trapped inside one chat window or one company's app. This part is key. This is why I am teaching what I am teaching today, is that portability. Because in a few months or a year, who knows who's going to be on top, right? It could be Google's on top or somebody, and they've got the best models. And you want to be able to take your stuff and be able to switch without having it stuck inside of one sort of frontier platform. Or maybe you want to go local, and maybe your company has very sensitive information and you want local LLMs only. Well, you're going to want to be able to have this stuff being able to follow you where you go. Okay? We don't want even though we're the product in some of these things, we want to get it out, right? So keep this in mind in the back part as we go through this, because it's very important. Next, we're going to get into the heart of it and what's in your head. Getting you out of what's in your head into a file. All right, we're going to start out, we're going to take the fear out of the file first, because the second I say file, you might brace for something technical, but this is about as simple as it gets. So you're going to see files that end in .md, and that's the only techie thing about this whole talk. It's nothing to worry about. MD just means markdown, which is a plain way of writing, simple, with simple headlines, and that a computer can read. The file itself is plain text, like a note that you'd write yourself. Now, there are three things that make it powerful. It's plain text, so it's not locked inside of any one app. Every major AI can read it: Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, all of them. And you can open it and change a line whenever you want. You stay in control of it. Or you can just have the AI manipulate those MD files, okay? So we'll get started here with what that file should look like. So here's an example of a real one. Now imagine this is just a text file that's sitting on your desktop, okay? This is what your file might look like after a 10-minute interview, and I'll show you that interview in a couple minutes. The founder here is name up. The name is, it's all just made up, but the name is Sam. She runs a company in Oakline that makes planners for busy parents. But the shape of it is exactly what yours should start to look like. There's nothing technical on the screen, just a few headings, who I am, who I serve, how I talk, and then a short list of rules. And that rules section is part that I pay very close attention to. And let's look at that first one. Never promise ship dates we haven't confirmed. And from that moment, the line is in the file, the AI stops inventing delivery dates when it drafts a customer email because the rule lives there and it reads every time. If you remember, these AIs are built to be super, super helpful. They try to placate us. They patronize us. Oh, hey, I want to start a new business. That's a great idea. You should do that. Maybe you shouldn't. You're handing it guardrails as the same way you give a new hire. So if you think about it, we're placing our sort of employee handbook in these files, okay? So, and the idea of this is that you start somewhere simple, but then you get to something much more bigger, and you get larger and keep going. And so every time you might be correcting the AI, you're just telling it, hey, save that for future reference. So if it comes back to you and it says, hey, I'm gonna send this email right now on your behalf, and you say, no, don't ever save that, and make sure you save that information. And so right now there's no voice section, no leverage, no synergy. The words that this person never wants to show up in their writing. There's going to be a lot of things in here that we want to add. Okay, so here we've got MD files all listed that are inside of the My Business folder, right? So it's pretty easy, right? We've got a folder that's just labeled what our business is and what we do. And then inside that, we have what's called a Claude MD file. That Claude MD file is the first thing Claude reads when it starts to work in that folder. And that's where all the information lies. And I'll show you deeper examples of this. Now, you don't have to create any of this stuff. You don't have to go in and start making files. You can just go in and work with Claude and tell it to start making these files. And I'll give you an example of that here in a minute. So, I have a version of this on everything that I publish, right? And it's a file about 100 words long and phrases I never want in anything I write. The things that make it sound like a robot wrote it. It catches roughly a third of my first drafts and sends them back to get fixed. And I built the same thing for a few clients and some content teams, and their lists are different from mine, and yours will be different from mine. But the file did the same job, and it just kept writing sounding like them. And it kept the writing you get easier one-shots with this, okay? So let's move on to the next part. So one file becomes one file per folder, right? But if you look, there's a Claude MD file in each folder, okay? That's because each folder has its own custom set of instructions depending on who it's working with, okay? In this way, it keeps Claude, like when you're working on this customer account, it knows that this customer has very specific asks and wants very specific things, right? So if it's working with this customer, it's going to know who those people are. It's going to know who the stakeholders are, what their preferred, if, Elizabeth likes to be called Liz or things like that. Sometimes it's very meaningful stuff, but it can, the more you chip away at it, the longer it can take. So I always keep one master file per customer, and then, that way it stays clean and everybody can stay working from the same picture. And if I have other team members working on these things, they're accessing these files and they're being able to see, and anything that they're working on can all live in these like major documents, okay? And again, I'll get into that. So go ahead and take a screenshot of this. But if you do, this is basically the prompt that I would put into Cowork or into Claude Code. And again, I'll get into the differences of that. But let's say we're working in Cowork. You open up Cowork, you point it at a folder on your computer, and you paste in this prompt, okay? And so it's just saying, ask me about my business, give me about 8 to 10 questions. one at a time. Let's cover what my company does, who I am, what I'm known for. And when we're done, write a Claude.md file that captures all of it and save it to this folder. And that's the whole thing. It asks you 8 to 10 questions, one at a time, and you answer it just like you're briefing a new assistant on day one. Just talk normally, just when you're done, it writes the file for you. 10 minutes, start to finish, super easy to do. And it will save you so much more time in the future. And don't worry about writing all this down. If you want access to this presentation, just shoot me a message or a DM, and I will send it out to you as well. Okay. So let's look at one of my screens here for a second so we can see what's actually happening. Okay. So here I'm opening Cowork. If you haven't used downloaded the Cowork app, I suggest you download the Claude app. Now, to use the type of work I'm talking about here, you will need a paid subscription. You'll need it in all of these, but you don't need the max one, just the cheaper one. It's the $20 a month is fine. I know it adds up, but I promise you, if you're going to use AI seriously, you've got to be able to do it. Now, one of the questions I get a lot is, what's the difference between a project and a folder? Okay. Now, I want to be clear about how Claude is different than ChatGPT when it comes to this. So a folder is where all the files live. Okay. And a project is something that uses folders as a reference point as you're working on a project. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of projects. I just think working out of the folder is fine. It has as long as you keep telling it to save the information as you're going through it. If you catch it making a mistake and you tell it, hey, don't do that again, it will learn to write this stuff locally. So you don't need to have a project that holds all the context. But it really is personal preference at this point. It's really they're not unpowerful. I just prefer to just stick in a project and not have to jump between. Well, did I have that work in a was I working that in a project or was that in a folder kind of thing? So basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to pick a folder. I'm just going to create a new folder called My Business, and I'm going to open that folder, and I'm going to say, hey, I'm starting a new business, and I would like to be able to start doing some work there. Ask me some questions about this new business, and that's where you would put that information in here, right? And so the easiest way to do this work is honestly make sure that you are asking it to save this information locally. Now, again, you can add files and folders. So if you already have maybe a pitch deck or things like that, go ahead and just add those files and those pitch decks, those Word docs, those other things. Go ahead and just add them into this and say, here's an outline of my business. I've been running this for the last 5 years. Here's a bunch of information that I've sent to clients. Here's information on it. You can go ahead and dump that all in there and say, help me organize this so that you can help me work on projects for my business. You'll also see there are some different types of models that you can choose. Now, I'm sure people, who pay attention to AI a little bit can see that, they release new models all the time. There's Opus, there's Sonnet, and there's Haiku. Okay. Now, when do I use what? Okay. Opus is for the highest thinking model stuff. So I would say whenever you're brainstorming, this is a good model to use. This is the model I choose for execution, is Sonnet. So anytime I'm just telling it to do things for me, write this thing, do that thing, go here, do that thing. Sonnet is a better choice because number one, it costs a lot less in terms of tokens than Opus does, and it's very, very good. This is just baseline stuff. So if I'm doing things like I have a list of I have a bunch of CSV files that I want to organize on my desktop. I downloaded all my customers from HubSpot, and I want to organize them by whoever has an N in their first name or something. Haiku is great for that, right? And it's the cheapest model there is, so you can do a ton of processing work. I'll use this maybe for cleaning up my desktop or reorganizing files or doing a bunch of things like that. But this is nice and easy. And then of course there's more models you can roll back to other previous versions of Opus as well. But this is all you're doing in Cowork. You got my business folder, and in here we're gonna say, let's start a business, call it LinkedIn live streaming for dummies, because I need that business. So you'll see as soon as I start it here, right here, the instructions, if you notice already, oh, what? The conversation is too long. Of course, it's going to flake out on me right when I'm doing stuff here on live stream. But I want to show you what'll happen. Here's the folder, the actual folder on my desktop. Oh, it's, I see, because sorry, I left it on Haiku. I shouldn't have done that. Let me go back. Okay. Okay, here we go. Live streaming on LinkedIn for Dummies is my new business. And it's working on it. So if you notice, it's already putting this in here. See, it's already congratulating me because it's such a great idea. See, this is the problem right here with AI that drives me crazy. So what do you want to tackle? It'll start giving me stuff, right? Just a Claude MD file with info right now. Total beginners, blah, 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 blah. So a Claude MD file will anchor everything going forward. Let me check what's in the folder already. So if you notice here, it's going to put together that Claude MD file right now. So just bear with me. This will take just a minute. And then once it's got that Claude MD file, and I'll show you, it already created this whole file, but I can open it up right here. So it's taking a bunch of stuff that it already knows about me, right? It's got like my personal email address in here, core customers. It put in some things in here like, oh, they're feeling camera shy and worried about things. And, you know, this is, you know, brand voice because it knows some of the stuff already from me. There's open lessons of to-do questions, all of that stuff. And it's pretty straightforward here. So what's cool about this, like I had mentioned, I'm just going to open this with text edit here. And I'm going to zoom in so you can see. I don't have to rely on this. If I'm more, I could go in and be like, they're not camera shy. Like they're not camera shy. They're just worried about looking professional or, you know, and the best thing about this, like I said, this is just a doc. Like I can take this anywhere I want to go, anywhere with me. Okay. And that's the key unlock here that I want to keep talking about, because the more that you start using these types of files. So let's say, let's start a voice profile file for me. And again, because it's really key, if you're using AI for, things like communication or writings or things like that, you want to really focus on making sure you're getting a voice file as robust as possible. And so you could take it from your real writing, and this is what I really suggest you do. You can tell it to just go to your email, or if your email's connected to CoWork or things, and it can just pull out how do you already write things. And that's what's really cool. I love the fact that it's got all these connectors. And so it's just asking me some questions here to get started. What should it cover? Just the business. It's already got some of that in here. It's already got the brand voice in here, right? And so it will go ahead and it'll start updating these things. Now, the one thing you want to pay attention to, again, is file sizes as well, because you don't want the files to get too big, because then the computer will bog down and read them. Okay, so look here now. Like magic, it created a voice profile.md file. And what it did, and you'll see in here, is it will say that it references this file. And so here's all the stuff in here. So, Kurt is talking to a nervous beginner who knows they should go live on LinkedIn, but breaks into a cold sweat. Warmth, energy, blah, 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 like all this stuff. And I can go in here and be like, no, I don't want to be warm. I want to be mean and like a drill sergeant. And I want them to feel the pain of what it's like to try and go live on LinkedIn, because I did that today. So like I said, it's pretty straightforward. You've got this generic thing here, which was that blank chat. And then here you've got, your voice sort of in here, where it's going to read this and it's going to be a lot easier to go from there. So this is the other part that's really good, right? The thing is like, and don't get me started, this is a whole nother aspect, but people and their fears about being replaced by AI, right? AI is very good at the how, right? It can execute on things, but it is very bad, very, very bad at the why. Now, it's not to say it can't be a good partner for you to run things past or get some ideas on and see what's happening. But the thing is that you want to use it as an assistant and not as, I see a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to make it my chief operating officer and I'm going to install OpenClaw, and I'm going to install Hermes and all those things. It's a waste of time. Those things are hobbies. I'm telling you. Don't get the FOMO about things like these posts and stuff, especially if you get into YouTube. Oh my gosh, like all these hype people, it's just crazy. Don't worry about those people. Here, what we want is to be able to talk to the AI as much as possible. And here's the real other unlock that I'm going to talk about here, because this is really, really important. The one thing I want to show you is a little program I like to use called Whisper Flow. Now, if I am working with Claude, okay, or ChatGPT or Codex, you'll see down here it does have a little microphone, which is pretty nice, right? So I can say, hey, Claude, this is great. Why don't we work on a new voice file that is going to be very particular to my customers and the types of things that they are looking for. I want to make sure that they understand that they are probably already a lot further ahead than they think they are. And so what's great about this is using this, I'm telling you, talk to the AI. Stop typing, okay? I cannot tell you how much of a difference this makes. Because when we are typing, we tend to edit ourselves. And the more we edit ourselves, the less context we end up giving the AI. And the less context we give the AI is the less why we're giving the AI. So it's not getting all of your information. It's not getting the nuance to how you're asking the questions that you're asking. And so using something where you're using your voice is really important. Now, I use a tool called Whisper Flow. It's a great tool, and it's got what I like about it is that I can move between applications with this a lot. So I can, like if you follow me on LinkedIn, like half of my posts are just me talking, and then just me going in and making some quick edits. And it's cool because you just hold down one key on your keyboard, and it just while you're holding it, it's like an intercom, and it just records. No matter what program you're in, no matter what, if you're in a browser or software, whatever the case may be, you just hold that key down, and it'll record. So, because sometimes I'll be talking and I might have switched to a different thing, and it won't catch what I had written. So there's a benefit. So if you start to get more inclined to talk, and I get it. Talking to the screen and talking to the AI is sometimes not as comfortable as it might be. I promise you, it is a huge unlock in terms of you being able to actually get done the things that you want to get done, because it builds up over time. Okay. The next thing I want to talk about is handoffs. Okay. So if I'm using the AI for a while, right? I'm using a window and I'm in here for a while. I'm working in this, and this gets really, really long. What I like to do is, because context is key to AI usage, the longer this chat goes, the longer it goes, the less context it gets. So if you think like a rear view mirror, as you're driving down the road, things in the background are getting blurrier and blurrier and more distant and distant. That's exactly what's happening here as you scroll down. Just because it looks crisp and clean to us here, that I can scroll up and I can see where I've come from, the AI is not doing that. The AI is blurring these things and forgetting these things the further you go. So one of the key things I like to do is that, let's say I spend a bunch of time working on my business files here. Okay, I'm updating my language, my voice file, all those things. When I get to the end of doing a bunch of that and I want to start working on some customer things, I'll say, hey, I want to use some of this information, but I want to do it in a new session. Can you write me a handoff prompt that will allow me to start a new session with context? And it'll say, absolutely. And it might even write a little handoff file here in your folder that then when you go and open up the new chat, you paste in that new prompt, and it'll tell that chat, hey, read this handoff file, and start from there. And it is so much more powerful than the long, because again, I know people, it's just like people in their tabs, right? Like you got like a billion tabs open, and maybe you've got like, a chat that's going like, for 6 days here. You are just making the AI dumber and dumber and dumber as you go. So don't do that. Hand it off and start a new chat. Because what I do is I'll do the plan. Here's my plan. Let's do planning. Okay, now write me a handoff to do implementation of that plan. Okay, so make the spreadsheet, make the app, do whatever I want it to do. And then give me a handoff for QA with fresh eyes. And that phrase, fresh eyes, very specific. It will tell the AI, don't remember anything about this application. Look at it like a new person coming in, or new AI coming in and reviewing this application or these things. I use this all the time. And what's great is that sometimes I disagree with it, but other times it can really give me a different perspective that I hadn't thought about before. Or it might find a gap in the way that the plan and the implementation went that I didn't catch and that the other AI session did not catch. Now, what's great, and I'll be doing this in a future more advanced lesson, is where you can use things like Codex and Gemini and Perplexity and local models to actually be that fresh eyes for you. So where it's really powerful in, like, say, this app that I'm building right now, is that Codex is kind of my lead developer, while Claude is my orchestrator, and Perplexity is my researcher, and Gemini is my help with anything Google related. So because this app that I'm building has like Google single sign-on, it uses a bunch of Google cloud hosting and things like that. And so using Gemini, who has the most knowledge about Google products, as my kind of product expert is really powerful. But again, future conversation, okay? So we'll get into that. Okay, where did I leave off now? Okay, we're on 15. So I'm tearing through this pretty good. I'm pretty impressed. Not too bad. If you're liking this, leave a comment. I'd love to get a thumbs up or something if you stuck with me this long. So let's talk about agent stuff, okay? Because a lot of people have a lot of confusion around what agents are, okay, and what they do and all these things. And like, am I using agents? And we're using agents and all this stuff. So it's a lot simpler than it sounds, okay? It sounds like it's something out of science fiction, okay? But an agent is, let me just bring it back down to earth. An agent is just a task that starts somewhere, does some work, and then ends somewhere, and then can run again when you need it to. That's it. 10 years ago, we would have just called this a loop. You point it at a job, and it runs the job. That's it. The useful idea underneath is its orchestration. One AI leads and hands pieces off to others that are better at those different pieces. Like I said, in my own setup, Claude leads, and then when I need research, it calls Perplexity as an agent because Perplexity is better at that part. Perplexity is just a great research partner. So I do a lot of go-to-market research for my customers and my clients. It's the best. And then connectors, how AI plugs into the tools you already use. So inside your CRM, your Notion, your Figma, your spreadsheets, and can sync along with the rest of your team. So I'll give you an idea. Let me make one reel that I built for myself, an agent. So I had these 2 years of sales conversations sitting in my CRM, and every deal that I took and every one I passed on, right? All of them were in there, and I had a reason for them all in my head, but I never had written down a single one. So I sat with it and I forced rules onto paper. And then when a prospect, for example, reaches out and says, they're a strategic partner, they're interested in partnerships, or they're interested in, they're looking for a vendor or something like that, the agent can read the emails or the messages that I'm getting from people and be able to help me qualify these folks, because it only has one job, which is qualifying sales leads. That's all it does. So if somebody emails me and they're saying, we're looking for vendors in this spot, it'll go into this bucket. If they say they're looking for partners in this bucket, or some version of that, okay? Now there's a bunch of other ones there too. And once those rules are in a file, the AI part just takes seconds. Because I'm saving all of that stuff, right? And so so when a new prospect emails me, the system already goes, it looks at their website, it goes to their LinkedIn, it goes to Google News, tries to pull any news that might be recent with them, and then it scores them against my rules. So, for example, like I had one come in just last week, and it mentioned that it saw that they haven't been posting on LinkedIn for a while, but there was some news that they had just closed a Series B round like 6 months ago and some other things. And so all this stuff came in before I even responded to them. So when I was able to respond to them, I was able to make it much more personalized, and I was up to speed on a lot of things where they were at, or I could question them on like how things going since that round closure, right? So, and I build this is what I do. I build this stuff a lot for other agencies and other businesses. The AI is the easy part. The work that is hard is getting out of what is important to you and that context out of your head onto paper, okay? It's no different than what we used to do in custom software development years ago. We have to have those discovery sessions to figure out what does good look like, and AI has not changed that in any way. So I'll hit you with the questions I get every single time I do one of these, because you're probably sitting in one of these two things right now. So what does it cost? Okay. So Claude Pro, it costs $20 a month, and that includes cowork, which is the piece of what I've mostly shown you today. And the free plan does not include it. There's Codex if you like OpenAI and ChatGPT. They've got a whole different thing. I'm going to do a whole thing on Codex here soon as well. Can I bring my ChatGPT history over? Yes, you can. There's a memory import in the settings that carries your context across. So it won't move every chat, but it'll move the important stuff for you. So let me show you real quick where that is in case you're interested. So if I go down to my settings and I go down to account, privacy, billing, usage, capabilities, right here. Under capabilities, import memory from other AI providers. So if I hit start import, it's going to say copy this prompt into a chat with your other AI provider. And it'll ask it like, hey, get all this stuff. And then what it wants you to do is then paste that in here. So if you've been using Gemini or the other things and you want to move a lot of stuff over, it doesn't erase anything from over there. It's just a great starter pack to move things over from a different AI platform into the AI platform that like Claude. And the other ones have this stuff as well too. All right, so is my data safe? So yes, Cowork only touches the folders you choose to share with it. So when it runs code, it happens inside of that walled off space, kept separate from the rest of your computer. A lot of people ask, how is Cowork different than code? Well, Claude Code can read your entire machine. It can go anywhere inside of your machine and be able to do stuff. I like Claude Code personally because I'm kind of messy, and sometimes I do save stuff to my downloads folder, my desktop, and I'm just too lazy to move it over to files. So I'm like, hey, can you grab those files and put them where they need to go? And so how is this different than ChatGPT's memory? So ChatGPT keeps little notes about you up in the cloud. And what I'm showing you here is a file you own and you can read. And the AI reads the whole thing from start to finish every time. And you can see exactly how it works and you can edit it yourself. So it's nice and easy, not hard to do, okay? So the last part is being able to, remember that all of this belongs to you, because this is what's key in the age of AI, is that right now, if you remember a few years ago, ChatGPT opened up their AI to the entire world, okay, as a consumer-based thing. They had no idea it was going to explode the way it did. Why would you think that they would not think that? Well, because what had happened is that by that point, they had read most of the internet and they were running out of data to ingest to train the models. And so the best thing that somebody came up with there was, well, let's just open up a user interface where people can just talk to the AI, and that will help feed our models along with everything else we're doing. And within a few months, it exploded, right? And they were like, oh my God, actually, this is the best way to train these models, is that we just get people in there. So that's why they still offer the free version, because you're still helping train the models. But what you will see over time, and this is why it is so important to keep your data portable. If you take one thing away from this talk, think about this. What they are doing right now is they are cranking up the cost of token usage. So every new model that they release, these things are getting more expensive. The tokens are getting more expensive. The more you want to do with these things, the more you got to look at the $100 a month plan, the $200 a month plan, and it is getting ridiculous. And it's going to keep getting ridiculous. This is not going to go cheaper. It's not going to go backwards. So what's key about being able to have those files is that, as we're seeing right now, Google is trying to reduce costs. They're trying to do the bundle thing, right? Where it's like you get the AI and ChatGPT, or not AI and Gemini, but you also get like YouTube Premium and Gmail and stuff, like whatever, Google Workspace. And they're trying to bundle more things because they're trying to grab as much as possible. And Microsoft will do the same thing because that's what these companies are good at, and that's what they do. So they're going to try to reduce costs, but OpenAI and Claude and these other things, they have to start increasing costs. And because, again, if they're going to get a valuation of $1 trillion company or things like that, just like Netflix, they got to keep upping the plan cost every so often. So keeping your data portable is really important. So you know your business better than the AI does, better than it ever will. So that's why we want to keep and build our repository of files locally. Because again, once we get this information out of our heads and into the world, where we can use them. I'm telling you, I had somebody ask me at my mini demo talk. They said, well, what if all this stuff disappeared? What's the best thing about using AI? And I'm like, well, because it forced me to have to be able to explain what my business value is and get it out in a way that makes sense and be able to use it repeatedly. Number 2, plan before you prompt. Get clear on what you want before you open a session. Now, I'm not saying you can't go in and be like, hey, I've got this crazy idea and I want to explore it. That's fine, but don't ever plan on taking that brainstorming session all the way to production. That's where the handoffs come in. So do your brainstorming if you want with AI, and then be like, okay, I'm done brainstorming. Now I want to write like a real plan. So what we're going to do then is we're going to tell it, let's hand off all this stuff so we can go into a new session for planning. And then if there's something that it gets wrong, tell it to correct it, right? So if it keeps coming back and is telling you, if it's doing one of its weird AI patterns where it's like, nope, I'm not going to do that because you said one time never to do that. You can be like, look, hey, don't worry about that. Like, you can do it this time, and next time just ask me. And it'll be like, okay, I'll save that information and I will ask you next time. So that's the whole thing. Look, I got done still within time, but I made it through. But again, I talk fast. So, but if you'd rather not do it alone, that's what I'm doing at my consulting business and at KRT Digital. So sometimes I coach a team through building their own setup. Sometimes my team and I help build it with them. Either way, you own everything that we build, and that's where I'll stop. And if you've got questions, again, if you have to run because you got a 1 o'clock, go ahead. I'm gonna, I know there's a little delay in the stream, but if you want the deck or any of these things, just let me know and hit me up on DMs. Slide into the DMs, folks, and make sure that you've got a way to. If you haven't connected with me, reach out to me. I'm more than happy to talk you through these types of things because I'm using this AI every day. I've got agents running on a machine right over on the other side of this computer right here that you can't see, but that's running. That's basically running my business. And so the more that I can help people get to this point, because AI is not going to replace you or replace your business. I have yet to meet people that work less because they're using AI. Those people just don't exist right now. I'm sorry. So AI is a multiplier in terms of the amount of work it can create. And just like us humans, we love to fill the space, right? We love to fill the space with whatever we've got, opportunity. We got some free time? Well, like, why don't I build this app? and then next thing you know, you've spent a couple $1,000s in tokens and you never want to release it. The greatest thing about AI, like I said in a recent LinkedIn post, is that there has been nothing better to get me getting rid of bad ideas as fast as possible. It is so much, I can get rid of bad ideas so much faster with AI now. And that's something I really appreciate about it. I don't have to think about them. I can brainstorm and I can talk through these things and I can get some ideas. It's really fun. Like I said, I love being able to be a part of this, so it's really interesting. I just, if you've got something on your mind and you want to make it happen and you're just not quite sure how to do it, just reach out. I'm more than happy to chat with you about it. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to check comments here and see if there's comments. Yep, there's comments. Josh, thank you for all your comments. I appreciate you. And if David, if you did get to join or you didn't get to join, yes, I did get a lot of, I will have a recording of this. So if you registered, I will send you the recording. So thank you so much, everyone who took the time and sat around and waited for me to join. I'm going to fix that for next time because I'm working on, as you saw, I'm working on my business for LinkedIn for Dummies. So thanks for taking the time. I appreciate all of you. Have a great rest of your day.